the unseen architect of justice. 20 years after a simple act of kindness, a sleek black helicopter descended upon the quiet neighborhood of Thomas Jefferson Santos, a 45-year-old man who was, by all appearances, just a humble dishwasher. The unexpected arrival heralded a long-awaited reunion, as two elegantly dressed figures emerged from the aircraft. Eli and Nina, the two orphan children Thomas had once secretly fed. Rewind 2 decades. Thomas, then 25, juggled double shifts at the upscale Golden Fork restaurant, mornings as a janitor, afternoons and evenings as a waiter, to support his ailing mother. He was largely invisible to the privileged clientele, a black man navigating a world that often overlooked him. It was a cold December night when he encountered 10-year-old Eli and 8-year-old Nina, shivering and hungry, having lost their parents and living on the streets. Without hesitation, Thomas began to sneak them food every night, an act of pure compassion that would irrevocably alter their lives and his own. His benevolent action, however, were soon discovered by Robert Manning, the restaurant's 50-year-old white manager, a man consumed by a superiority complex. "Do you think this is a free food distribution center?" Manning roared, publicly firing Thomas and spewing racial slurs. "You clueless black man, you should be grateful you have a job, not giving our food to bums." Undeterred, Thomas continued to feed the children with the meager provisions he had at home until social services eventually took them away to a distant institution. The humiliation at the Golden Fork was just the beginning. Manning, not content with merely firing Thomas, actively blacklisted him from other establishments, spreading lies about theft. "Give them an inch and they'll take a mile," Manning smugly told his peers, revealing his deep-seated prejudice. "I thought I was doing charity by hiring a black guy, but they always show their true colors." Thomas, meanwhile, took on any odd job he could find: car washes, flyer delivery, office cleaning. Anything to support himself and his mother. What Manning and his ilk didn't realize was that Thomas held a business administration degree with top honors. He worked as a waiter not out of lack of options, but for the flexible hours required to care for his mother. For years, he quietly endured the world's dismissive gaze. But the children, Eli and Nina, had ignited something within him. His commitment to them, even after he was fired and often hungry himself, became a fierce resolve. One night, while carrying leftover food, Thomas overheard Manning and his cronies at a private club, openly mocking him. "The thief waiter is still out there picking up scraps like a stray dog," Manning sneered, adding, "I bet he's selling the stolen food to buy drugs." It's always the same story with these types. Thomas felt a surge of anger, a desire to expose them, but he thought of Eli and Nina waiting for food. He swallowed his pride and walked on, his silence misinterpreted as submission. They had no idea the magnitude of their mistake. That night, Thomas began filling an old notebook with names, dates, and overheard conversations from his time at the Golden Fork. He had absorbed valuable information about their business practices, tax schemes, and even their casual racist remarks. "One day," he vowed to himself, "you'll find out you underestimated the wrong person." When his search for Eli and Nina led to the crushing news that they had been moved to an orphanage in another state, inaccessible to him, it was the final straw. Thomas realized that dreaming of justice wasn't enough. He had to build it himself. Every insult, every closed door, every denied opportunity was unknowingly forging a shrewd strategist, intimately aware of his adversary's weaknesses. Over the next 2 years, while Manning expanded his empire, Thomas, working grueling 16-hour days, meticulously applied his college education. His notebook evolved into detailed spreadsheets. He uncovered pattern. Manning and his associates weren't just racist. They were habitual tax evaders, operated with overpriced contracts, off-the-books employees, and manipulated receipts. Thomas had names, dates, and exact figures. His mother's passing, holding his hand and whispering, "Don't let the anger consume you, boy." Used this pain to build something greater, solidified his purpose. At her funeral, he met Dr. Marcus Chun, a tax lawyer and his mother's former classmate, who understood the sting of prejudice. Thomas presented Chun with his meticulous notes. "This is a tax bomb," Chun whispered, astounded. "If half of this information is true." "It's all true," Thomas affirmed. I was there when they said it. They thought I was furniture. While Manning's arrogance swelled with his expanding business, unknowingly, Thomas, now a janitor, was cleaning Manning's accounting office 3 times a week. During this time, he photographed hundreds of documents, copied spreadsheets, and recorded incriminating conversations. Chun, impressed by Thomas's professional investigative work, noted, "You should have been a detective." Thomas replied, "I had good teachers. The difference is that now I have personal motivation." The turning point came when Thomas discovered Manning's plans for a large-scale expansion, dependent on a flawless public image and strict government certifications. "It's now or never," Chun declared. Thomas, no longer the humiliated waiter, felt the awakening of the strategist he always was. "He believes he destroyed me," he told Chun, a smile of righteous vengeance playing on his lips. "He has no idea that he just gave me time to prepare properly." The meticulously planned assault began. First, an unexpected IRS audit, fueled by Thomas's chronologically organized evidence, blindsided Manning. "They know about the ghost employees. The account in the Cayman Islands you said was top secret," his panic accountant reported. Thomas, watching the news from his small apartment, received a confirming call from Chun. "It started. The IRS accepted our complaint and acted faster than we expected." 2 days later, during a meeting with international investors, journalists descended upon Manning's office, demanding answers about slave labor and tax evasion. The next day's newspaper headline was devastating. "Food empire built on exploitation and tax evasion. The truth behind Manning's restaurants." The report exposed everything. Black employees paid half the wages of white employees for the same work. Degrading conditions, elaborate tax evasion. Most damning was a recording of Manning saying, "Negroes have to know their place. I pay the minimum wage because that's all they deserve." The final blow came swiftly. Investors pulled out, bank accounts were frozen, and restaurant licenses were suspended. Amidst a frantic meeting with his lawyers, Manning received a call. "Thomas Jefferson Santos. Remember me? The waiter you fired 3 years ago for feeding orphan children." Thomas's calm voice cut through Manning's panic. "Did you really think a man with a degree in business and straight A's would sit idly by after being publicly humiliated?" Manning stammered. "You're a janitor." Thomas replied, "I was for 3 years. I cleaned offices, including the building where your accounting department is located. Do you know how many private conversations can be heard through thin walls? How many documents are left on desks when invisible are cleaning?" Manning's legs buckled as Thomas detailed the extent of his documented evidence. Cayman Island account statements to the IRS, overpriced contracts to the district attorney, and the damning racial slurs sent to every local television station. "Why are you doing this to me?" Manning whispered, defeated. "Because you made a choice 3 years ago," Thomas responded, his voice unwavering. "You chose to humiliate a man who was trying to feed hungry children. You chose to spread lies about me. You chose to treat human beings like disposable trash." That afternoon, Manning was left alone in his crumbling empire. Across town, Thomas received a call from Chun. The German investors, impressed by his investigative skills, were interested in hiring him for internal auditing. Thomas smiled, his mother's words echoing, "Turn pain into building." 6 months later, Thomas operated from an elegant penthouse, his auditing firm with Chun thriving by exposing discriminatory labor practices. The Manning case became a celebrated business school case study on strategic patience. Thomas, now a sought-after speaker, always shared the same message. The best revenge is not destroying your enemy. It's building something he could never imagine. Manning, conversely, was bankrupt, his reputation in tatters, working as a gas station night manager. Then came the helicopter. 20 years after they vanished, Eli, now a successful ethical restaurant chain owner, and Nina, a renowned human rights lawyer, stood before Thomas. They had followed his journey, recognizing the man who had fed them as children. "The man who fed us became the man who brought down an empire built on prejudice," Eli stated. They proposed a foundation, the Santos Lenina Foundation, dedicated to identifying at-risk children, providing vocational training, and offering dignity through work. "Social justice isn't just talk," Nina asserted. It's concrete strategic action. 2 years later, the foundation flourished, a national benchmark for social inclusion, aiding hundreds of children and thousands of families. Thomas, no longer the humiliated waiter, but a brilliant strategist, regularly appeared in media. During one interview, asked what he would say to those experiencing similar discrimination, Thomas replied, "The difference between revenge and justice is simple. Revenge destroys, justice builds. Manning tried to destroy me, but he ended up teaching me that I could be much greater than he ever imagined." Every child helped by the foundation was a new victory over the prejudice of the world.